The campus was the building. We didn't have that many buildings on the campus, and they were far apart. I was out there about 2 months ago, and it looked like a city beside what we had.
Yeah. Were most of the men gone? Was it mostly females on
It
campus?
was. They was in the World War II was really going fast for the black community. There was very few men on campus.
And you said you went to Alcorn for 2 years.
Yes, and then I transferred to Tennessee A&I.
What made you transfer?
After my brothers had gone to Alcorn, they found out well, if you want to do graduate work, you'd have to do makeup work coming out of Alcorn. And I found that out when I got to Tennessee, because the dean that was at Tennessee. He used to work at Alcorn. He threw out all my education. He kept me there a quarter longer than I would have been there, because I went to summer school and I would have been out. I had to go back and pick up that education. He said that education I had at Alcorn was old as he was, but that wasn't my fault. Alcorn should have offered better.
Could you tell the difference in the classes between?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah. Sounds like you like Tennessee.
Well, they were much harder, because really we didn't have the foundation that we should have had.
Even though you actually probably had a better education coming into it than most African Americans had opportunity for at the time.
I don't know, these children came out of city school was so much far advanced than we were.
Was it? You think that was the difference?
Even Hattiesburg School, Laurel School, they were far more advanced than we were.
Yeah. Do you think that was because they put more resources into it, or they had teachers that with more education?
I think they had more money to do something with. They probably had later books and we never saw a new book.
Well,
Never saw a new set of encyclopedia.
Well, from what we were talking about earlier, it sounds like that most of the resources for the schools you went to came from the black community, and that there wasn't much contribution from the government.
I think they were supposed to have given us, but they always took the best for their children, and we got what left over.
What did you do after you left Tennessee A&I? Did you graduate with your?
I graduated in 1947. I got a bachelor's degree in home economics.
What did you do?
I found a job in Jasper County, and I taught home economics in Jasper County. I believe it was 3 years. Then I came to Jones County, and from Jones County I came to Forrest County. I taught home economics several years in Forrest County.
What made you move from one school to another?
Better salary, different in the pay.
Yeah. What were those schools like that you were teaching in?
They was just a step ahead of the high school I finished with.
Yeah.
We didn't have the resources for the children either, but we did the best we could as teachers. We had a lot of college graduates by the time I was teaching. They didn't have them when I was going to school. In fact, they might have had one. I can think maybe 1 or 2 graduates from college. Most of them were finished at those normal schools.
I know people could teach with a high school degree in those early years.
If they could pass that test in the superintendent's office, which he couldn't pass.
So that was the white superintendent.
They couldn't help you with anything when you went on there. I know when I was making my first home economic report, I went on and asked him, did they have the forms? And he said, no. Look at what the other teachers did. You can fix yours like that.
Where would your report go to?
It would go to the county, and I think they would send it to the state. I don't know where it would go after then, but we had to make reports.
Was home economics related to the county extension?
Yes.
Okay. How did you meet Mr. Dahmer?
They needed a home economic teacher down here, and they came up there, and I was available. I was available because they paid more money.
So you were available because you wanted to be available.
Well, the money will make you available.
Yeah. And so you came and you were teaching in Hattiesburg in Forrest County?
Teaching in Forrest County, right out there where Dennis went out there, where Dennis is making his serpent. That's where we're teaching at.
So you were right here in Kelly Settlement.
Right in Kelly Settlement.
Do you remember when you met Mr. Dahmer for the first time?
Yeah, he came up to my house he and several more people came up there to interview me about the job. And of course, I was cooking dinner, and they didn't leave until 8.
They stayed for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't gonna get them out.
And I don't know if they was even invited for dinner, but we probably invited them. They probably, but he didn't leave till 8. I know that much.
And was it like inevitable after that moment?
Well, no.
No.
It developed later on.
Yeah, yeah. So did you like teaching here in Kelly Settlement?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like teaching, yeah. I taught children they integrated to schools. And after they integrated to school, they told the principal they didn't tell them who to hire, but they told them who not to hire. And my name was on that list.
So was that in 70 or 66? I know that they integrated at different times.
Now they integrated in.
Was it with freedom of choice or was it after that?
It was before freedom of choice. They consolidated all the black schools in Forrest County into one school, and that was named at Earl Trevilian.
And that's when they didn't rehire you?
That's when they didn't rehire me. They built a new school down there for all the black students in Forrest County. The white school kept their schools where they were. Our children had to pass by them going to that school.
And that was probably in the late 50s or 60s?
I believe it was in the 50s, I believe.
Yeah. And so when they consolidated at Earl Trevilian, you stopped teaching?
I stopped teaching in Forrest County.
Okay.
I was later, that same year, I believe they consolidated. I was able to get a job in Perry County.
Where is Perry? How far away is that?
30 Mile, Richton.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And were you still teaching home economics?
No.
Is that what you went to?
By then I had gone to elementary. I had gone to elementary before I left Forrest County High. I went to secondary first and then elementary.
Okay. Can you tell me about Mr. Dahmer? What was he like?
If I've ever seen a Christian person, he was one. He put Christianity into practice. He was really concerned about his fellow man. We had a comfortable living on the farm, in the sawmill, in the grocery store, and the planer mill. At that time, we had a very comfortable living. But he wanted to make things better for other people.
When you married, did he own all this land, or was he working with other family members?
He owned this right here, and of course he had sisters and brothers that owned land. He was working some of their land.
So he worked his own land and their land.
And some of their land.
Before you had children, who helped him work on the land?
He had hired help.
Okay.
He had hired help. And of course, he had tractors. A tractor can do far more than a horse or mule can with a plow. And he first started with a 1-row tractor, and then he moved to a 2-row tractor, and that was really could do something. And then as his boys grew up, Dennis was driving the cotton picker before he was 12 years old. So his children learned to work early. Betty was driving a car before she was 10. Because the incident that when they burned our house, Betty was just 10 and a half.
And when she was, I want to ask you about that, but I thought I'd maybe ask you some other things first.
Yes.
When she was driving a car at the age of 10 or around that, would she do that just here around the farm?
Around the place? No, you didn't let her get out on the road. Maybe she'd go for a kid from the house or maybe up to her aunt's house on the road. But the traffic was nothing like it is now. It wasn't as dangerous. They didn't have to have a driving license around here. Children on the farm learn to drive early because all you need them to do is get off on the gas and let the truck roll. Then get on the brakes to stop the truck from rolling. And when they keep on doing that, somebody just usually go and put it in gear for them, but they learn to put it in there themselves early.
Well, they had a lot of responsibility.
Yes, everybody helped.
So how many children did you all have?
Okay, let me count them up. We had 6 boys, 7.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And as soon as they were old enough, they would all help on the farm.
Everybody had something to do. Betty Pritchard, she worked all her life. Even when we were planting cotton, Betty could put the cotton seeds in the plant on the tractor. They were light. And she would sit on the truck and he'd back up there, she put the cotton seeds in. Dennis would put the fertilizer in the hamper there. I was here cooking dinner because on the farm you want dinner right at the time the people's coming out and feel hungry.
So would you cook for everybody working on the
Oh,
farm?
yes. Cook for everybody.
That's a big job.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you mentioned the cotton and the sawmill.
And the corn, peanuts, and we had sugar cane. All of that brought in money.
And you also had a store?
Yeah, we had a grocery store.
Did you and the children ever work in the store?
No, his aunt run the store.
So she would just take care of it?
Mm-hmm. Only thing I did, I fill out the report for the sale tax for the store. I fill out the report for the Social Security for the people who worked at the sawmill.
So you would do some of the paperwork, some of the bookkeeping?
Yeah.
When did you first try to register to vote?
Now I don't know what year it was. I don't know what year it was. But I was some of the first that tried to register to vote.
Here in Hattiesburg?
Here in Hattiesburg.
So you just mentioned you were one of the first people in the Hattiesburg area to try to register to vote.
We would go down, fill out the application. Mr. Lynn never looked at you. And you would say, I've got to fill out, he said, and turn around. He gave me a card, a 2x5 card with the Constitution on not all the Constitution, some of the Constitution on the card. He told me to read that and tell him what it means. And of course, I read it and I could very well explain it to him. He would tell me, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You didn't pass. He never listened.
When you would go down, would you go by yourself? Or
No, Vernon usually went with me.
So the two of you would go?
Mm-hmm. And he would go with everybody that he could go down there. And of course, they took your tag number.
When you were doing that, is that when they would put your name in the paper for trying to register?
What they really would do was send it in to your employment. But at that time, we'd already made affidavits out to an organization we gave money to. NAACP was a no-no. You could not give them any money. And we had to have that notarized.
So you would have the deposition notarized or the...
We'd have to have the form that we fill out, the organization that we gave money to, we'd have to have that notarized.
You mean though for the teachers?
For the teachers, yeah.
Yeah, and then that they would fire you
if you gave money to NAACP. We didn't have that nerve to say we gave it to them.
So you wouldn't put that on the form?
No, nobody would put it on the form. They wanted a job.
Were you a member though at that time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you remember. So when you would go down to register, was Mr. Dahmer registered at that time?
No, he never had a chance to register. He never had a chance to vote. His card came after we buried him.
I didn't know that.
No, he never had a chance to vote.
So all of those years of trying.
He never had a chance to vote. I always go to I never want to vote an absentee. I never go to I voted once at the courthouse when I had a hip replacement. It was on a walker. But I always go to the polling place to vote. I go to the place they wouldn't let me go.
Are any of the same people there?
No.
But they were when you first started. What was that like?
Well, by then things had changed some. In fact, I worked with some of them that were in his office. I was the election commissioner now for 3 terms of District 2 out in this area.
Did you run for that
office? Yes.
How soon did you run for that office after the vote, after Mr. Dahmer was killed?
These are questions I cannot answer.
Like exact dates, but was it soon after that?
No.
It was a little while.
Probably some 10 or 15 years after that. We had a lady that was running for it. And I guess I can say this, it won't be a white, she had a white opponent. and she refused to run against him.
Was she afraid?
She said she just didn't like competition. She was well qualified. She had a PhD degree.
And she didn't feel comfortable running against a white.
And when they told me, we had, I think she told the person that was helping her, who had helped her get in office, she must have told them on a Thursday or Wednesday morning that she wasn't going to run. And they was wanting Betty to run, but Betty couldn't run because her job. By then I had retired. And we got out there from Wednesday night and got enough signatures on the form for me to qualify.
I bet it was, you had a lot of connections you could draw on for that.
We had a lot of help because we called key peoples in the community, and if they were going to sign it, they put their lights on. We had several people going with forms. My daughter-in-law was one of them who was helping me. She was off from work or got off from work. I can't remember how many signatures we had to have, but we had more than enough. When they got to the number, they just stopped.
I guess you probably always did more than you needed.
Yeah.
What was it like to be elected election commissioner after being kept out of voting for so long?
It was a wonderful feeling to be able to help with something that they had denied me of. And I made sure that nobody else was denied. We followed the law. If it wasn't the law, we didn't do it.
That must have been a nice change to be able to impact that in such a tangible way.
Yes, and be able to work. Now, it's only 2 black ones down there. They were predominantly white, but we got along good.
Yeah. So the attitude had changed by that time a little bit?
Well, I need to say this, and I've said it wrong, so many, all the white people wasn't bad. There was always some good white people, but just so many of them weren't nice to us. There was always some good white people.
Did any of them come out of their way to talk to you during the early days, or let you know that there was some interest, or is it just that they didn't go out of their way to cause?
Yeah, some did, but I'm not gonna mention them families because they may have some family friends here still around here. Not only did the white people take culture, do things, they would have put them out of business.
Citizens Council will go after anybody. We were talking earlier. Can you tell me? Can you remember when you first found out about the NAACP? Do you remember? Did your parents belong?
No, I don't think we knew about it in Jasper County at the time. I really found out about it when we came down here that it was active.
Would you ever go to meetings?
They had the meetings in the house, in the living room, right here on the same spot. I sat out there on the carport. I was the lookout person. And often the chief of police came out here one day. I didn't know who he was, but I was hollering and telling him, you need to come to the door. It's a white man pulling up out you in the car. And Vernon came out and said, Chief, what brought you out here? Chief of police came right out there in the yard and went on out and met him. The people was in the house then.
Was this before Curtis and Hollis came out here?
Yes.
So this was the early days.
This was before they came to live with us.
You know, in Claiborne County, the people that belonged to the NAACP at that time, it was about 10 people, and they told me that they used to burn the cards. Did people do that around here? They wouldn't want to be caught with the NAACP card.
I don't remember any of that going on, but it was a very few of them here too, because they could hold a meeting in the living room and then have some room.
Were they people you knew? Were they people
yes,
right around here?
Yes, people we knew and lived right around here.
What kinds of things were you doing with the NAACP?
They were making strategy to register to vote. And they were making strategy of who's so much as you don't need to spend your money with. These are the kind of things they were doing.
Would Medgar Evers come to those meetings?
No, Medgar Evers was the state president.
He didn't ever come to
No, he didn't ever come here to a local meeting here.
Dory Ladner and Joyce Ladner.
They were young children then. They were young. They wasn't.
Yeah, they said they remember working with the NAACP branch.
Yeah, with their aunt, with his sister. They all was in the same church together.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Is that Miss Beard?
Yeah, they was all in the same church together.
Can you tell me what she was like?
She was very fast-skinned, Her hair came down to here. They were holiness people. They didn't believe in cutting their hair.
Yeah.
They just wore it long.
And she worked with the young people on the
Yeah, with
NAACP.
NAACP.
Did they live close by?
They live right out there where Dennis is making a soap. All of this was Dahmer land. They all live right in this area.
So the whole family lived
Close. The ones that were here, most of the children went north now.
Okay. Where were they living?
Chicago, mostly, California. They were fast skinned. They just crossed on over. Some of them. They crossed on over. Some of them couldn't even come to his funeral because they had been going for white all their lives.
That must have been. Were you in contact with them, or was he in contact with them?
Yes, the family was in contact with him because once when his mother got real sick, one of the brothers came.
I would think it would be hard for them to, not be able to come back for something like that.
They couldn't come back for it though because they had gone for white most of their lives. They couldn't come back to a black man's funeral when they was passing for white.
When you were having those NAACP meetings at the house and trying to register to vote, were you afraid ever?
Yes, yes. I answered the door at night. Vernon didn't answer in the door at night. We were getting threats. I broke out all the way up here my neck, all the way down here. Yes, I was afraid. Nobody wants to die.
How did you cope with that?
Prayer and leaning on him and we were strength to each other.
Did you ever think about, giving up the fight and doing
Well,
something different?
I knew he wouldn't give it up, but I do wish, I've said it many times, I wish he'd let the last two children get grown. The rest of them were grown. Betty was 10 and a half, and Dennis would have made 12 on the 2nd of February. This happened on the 10th of January. I think he should have let them get grown. But by the time they got grown, I reckon nothing would have been done.
Did you all talk about that at the time?
Well, he kept saying if we don't do it now, it won't ever get done.
What did you think?
I was afraid. He was afraid. We didn't let him go nowhere in a car by himself. Dennis could drive well, even though he didn't have no license. We told him to get him, if something happened to him, if somebody shoot in that car, and shoot him to get him to the hospital, run the lights if he had to, and we would deal with that later. He was not on the tractor in the field by himself. Somebody was always with him. Of course, he always had a girl. He was one of these people that didn't try to drive when he was going there, where he had to see everything, but he didn't let a car pass him. He would get in the middle of the road before he could let the car pass because he was afraid they would shoot him. He didn't know who it was in that car behind him. He didn't let them pass him. We kept the front porch light off because we were afraid they would shoot him covered in the door or something.
I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, but that before the attack on the house, you all had just stopped keeping watch all night.
We stopped sleeping in shifts. I would sleep the first part of the night when I got through with supper and the clothes ready, especially during school days for the children and everything, everybody's school clothes ready. I'd go to bed, and then I'd get up at 12, put on my clothes because I know I couldn't go back to sleep. Then he would go to sleep, and I'd stay awake until day. Sometime I would be washing, moving around in the house quietly with no lights on. And on the front, and I had made curtains for the living room and the den. And when we went out there one night, you could see through the curtain. You see figures through there. So I had to take all them down and line them so you couldn't see through them.
So sort of blackout curtains, like just for the protection of that.
On the outside.
Did people drive by and shoot before the night that they burned?
Oh, they shot up the mailbox. They would shoot windows out at the store. They put up the Klan sign, KK. They nailed them up on posts and he would tear them down. People was afraid, and those people who tell you they wasn't afraid, they not telling you the truth.
Did he know any of the people that were doing the harassment?
I don't know if he knew any of them or not. But the one that attacked us that night, they came out in Jones County.
Yeah. Did you all ever talk to the sheriff or the police?
What good would he do when he was one of them? If he wasn't one of them, his daddy was one of them, his brother was one of them, his cousin. They were all in this together. Wasn't no use to call the sheriff or police.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever talk to the Justice Department lawyers when they had the lawsuit against Theron Lynn?
Yes. I was one of the 18 that he had to issue the voter registration card to. We didn't have to go back and register anymore.
Can you tell me about that?
I went to the court in New Orleans.
So did you testify?
No, I didn't testify. We had very few people testify. Mr. Lincoln was the one on the stand most of the time, with John Doe asking him questions.
Were you at the court?
Yes, I was there. We went every day.
What was it like to see him have to answer?
I was glad to see him one time. He was afraid then. He was not happy at all.
And so they were able to prove that your applications were qualified, and so they forced him to put you on the rolls.
What really broke it open was Vernon's sister was her name was not Dahmer anymore. She was Erling Beard. And a neighbor out there on the other side of her, they were very fair-skinned people. They went down in the register to vote. They didn't ask them any questions. They didn't ask him to read the Constitution. All they asked his sister was, "What took you so long?" And she told him, "I had my mind on other things, and vote wasn't one of them." They thought that was so funny. And she was setting them up then. They allowed those two people to register. They didn't ask them if they were black. They didn't ask them if they were white. They just looked at them and let them register because they thought they were white.
So after that, that was the proof
that was the proof we needed.
Mm-hmm.
That he was segregating against black people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So were you all the first group that he had to put on the rolls?
Yes, 18 of them. I can't remember all 18 of them now. Harold was one of them, Vernon was one of them, I was one of them, and some more people. 18 of us that he had to allow to register.
And was that trial, was that in Hattiesburg?
They had the first trial for him, I believe, in Jackson.
Okay.
I didn't go to that trial because all of the people who was here that the court said he must send us the voter registration trial did not have to testify against him.
Because you had done the affidavits?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But I wanted to go to court because the United States Attorney General was going to be down there, and we wanted to see him. Yeah. And they wouldn't let us take any pictures, of course.
Was that Bobby Kennedy?
No.
You mean John Doe?
John Doe was down there.
Okay, yeah. Did you know him?
No, I met him down there.
What was it like to meet him?
Wonderful, wonderful. A young black man. He must have been in about 16 or 18. He had his camera. He took a picture, and they were going to put him in jail. We was in that federal courthouse, and that man was mean to that young man.
Yeah. Was that before Judge Cox?
No, that was with the 3 judges.
Oh, okay, the panel.
What was the one in Atlanta, one in New Orleans, one in Houston? What was the name of them? I can't think of the name of them.
But it was the 3-court panel that it was appealed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We talked earlier that when SNCC got organized and COFO, that Hollis Watkins and Curtis Hayes out of Macomb came and stayed.
He went to the NAACP meeting in Jackson. What I know and everything, he was coming back with 2 young men with a suitcase.
So he went to a meeting by himself and came back
with 2. As if I didn't have enough to do.
What did he say? What did you say to him?
Nothing. He said they'll be staying with us. They're going to help with the voter registration.
Yeah. Can you tell me about what Hollis and Curtis were like then?
They were just like our other children. Here, they had to work like everybody else. Whatever around the house needed to be done, they had to do their share of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then when the work was over with, they'd go out in the community and try to get people to register and vote.
Do you know who they were talking to?
They would talk to community people here. Mm-hmm. And they wired Hollis one time to go around to talk with Theron Lynn.
Yeah. What do you know how that went?
It went good.
Okay, we're back.
I've been told that he was a very intimidating person, Mr.
He
Lynn.
was, his size and his voice.
Yeah. Well, how would he treat people?
He treated me all right now.
Yeah.
We all were, to all the white people, we were girls and boys.
Mm-hmm. And what'd you call them?
Well, I called them by their name when I wasn't in their face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They didn't have nothing. I hated them bad as they hated me.
Yeah. Because of the treatment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what you remember about Freedom Summer?
I did not participate in nothing but cooking, getting food out there for them to eat, and helping with whatever need to be helped with.
Did people stay at your house?
I don't remember any of them staying in here with us. Most of them lived in town because they could get around better down there than they had out here because they didn't have no train. If you didn't have a car out here, there wasn't no way for you. They could walk from house to house down there. But they did come out here for the picnic. We cooked food for them. And we were the one that fixed the food, and they had a lady to fry fish for them, and I was fixing all the potato salad and all the other trimming for them. I was doing all that by myself.
Now, was this picnic for all of the volunteers?
All the volunteers that came down here to work.
And I've heard stories that it was a wonderful picnic.
It was. And the young man, I think Hal, by then, Hal had been taught, they had drafted Hal and Alvin in the service then. So he had a young man driving a tractor to go get some melons out of the field. Instead of him coming back the way he told him to come, he went right through the white community with blacks and white up on that trailer. And that put a scare in us.
Did anything happen?
Nothing happened, but that wasn't the right thing to do.
Do you know why he didn't go the way?
He was young and don't do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Instead of coming back across the dam the way he went and come on back up this road and stay in the black community, he went right out the other end of the field and went on down the road through the white community.
Did he know what he was doing?
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But he probably didn't know how dangerous it was. That would get him killed and all them people on there with him killed.
Mm-hmm. So your son Dennis was telling me that all of your older sons were getting drafted as soon as they turned 18.
Yeah, they made sure they got his workforce around. Now, I think Vernon Jr. volunteered, Marnez volunteered, and George volunteered, but Harold and Alvin did not volunteer. They drafted them. They drafted Alvin on crutches. He had hurt his foot, but they took him right on into service.
They didn't care about any kind of injury or.
Well, I reckon they know he had means of treating them.
Yeah. So do you think that they were doing that deliberately?
Yes, to cut out his workforce.
Did they serve in war zones?
I think Hal was in Vietnam. Yeah. And Penny was in Germany when he died, I believe.
Yeah. Did you ever go to any of the mass meetings?
No. I stayed at home, kept Betty and Dennis.
Mm-hmm. Were they the only ones in the house during that time? The only children?
Hal was in here. Hal had just come back from the service.
So you had him come back from the service.
He was in
younger children.
In the house at the time.
How did you feel when the Voting Rights Act passed?
Oh, it was wonderful that we were able to vote. And after they passed it, they didn't allow the black people to go up in the courthouse register. They had a little booth over there where they had sold gas. That's where they put the registration books out there. Most of the black people did not register in Forrest County courthouse. At that time, they registered down there now.
Because they registered with federal registrars and they rented a space?
Put them out there.
Did people start registering really quickly?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was there a strong drive to encourage people?
Yes.
Yeah. What was going to be the first election? Was it like a supervisor's election in '67?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You carry me back. This has been it'll be 50 years since he been dead, coming up in January.
It's almost the 50th anniversary, isn't it?
In January.
Are you all going to have any kind of commemoration?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
The family's going to have something
Yeah.
at the church.
Will it be private?
No,
Yeah.
it will be for the public.
Yeah. So I've heard that he went on the radio.
He did. They allowed him and other people to take the poll tax book out to the store where you could pay your poll tax. You had to pay poll tax before you could even make out application to register and vote. You had to have that with you. You had to know you had paid them poll tax. He wasn't the only one they allowed to take it out to the store. There were other people in Hattiesburg that had poll tax books at the store.
So was it black and white, or well, it was whites, and then they allowed.
I don't know what the white people had about, but they had other blacks had about their businesses. They were allowed for the blacks to go there and pay poll tax. That's what he went on the radio to tell them, that he had to book out at the store where they could pay the poll tax. And he had to go all the way into Hattiesburg.
I've always understood that from reading that he believed people would be more comfortable coming to him than going into Hattiesburg.
Well, naturally they would.
Yeah.
You'd have to. Anybody's more comfortable when you got friendly faces smiling at you rather than mean faces looking at you.
Would you? You showed me a copy of a poll tax receipt earlier. What was it like for you when you paid your poll tax when he was still living? Would you go down to the courthouse?
We'd go down to the courthouse and pay them. I paid the poll tax and property tax at the same time. One place was where you could pay the property tax, other place where you pay poll tax, and paid them all at the same time. That's what he did when he was living. He paid them all at the same time.
And am I right?
Now see, Hal wasn't down there, but I feel like I just paid it for Hal.
Can you hold that for a second? So this is a copy of a poll tax receipt, and the date is January 25th, 1966, and that's for Mrs. Ellie J. Dahmer and Harold C. Dahmer paying the poll tax. What's the significance of this particular poll tax for you?
This is the one we had left. The others got burned up. We had the poll tax receipts before, but everything was burned up in the house.
So tell me what happened after Mr. Dahmer went on the radio.
We was already getting threats, but we got more threats after he went on the radio. And they was coming in saying, N-word, you're gonna get killed. You want to be white. You want your children to go to school with white people. And he would answer back, when you come to get me, I'll be ready for you. And we thought we were ready for him. But two carloads came down here. 4 white men hit the store and 4 hit the house. And what could 3 people do with that many? Dennis could shoot well, Hal could shoot well. Betty and I hadn't learned to shoot then.
You hadn't?
No.
You didn't think you needed to?
Yes, I know. I know now we should have learned how. But it wouldn't have been nothing we could do. When we waked up, we stopped getting threats. By Christmas time in 1965, we stopped getting threats. From Christmas time on up, we stopped sleeping in shift. We thought it was over with.
You thought that with the passage of the Voting Rights Act,
it was over with. They were going to let us alone.
And it was going to be peaceful?
Yes. And see, when they came that night, I was the first one to wake up that night. We kept loaded guns in the house. That's the only reason we got out. And he was shooting back at them. And of course, he had built the house out of his own money, out of the lumber he had cut. And we weren't able to put the metal windows all the way around the house. We had them on the front of the house. We had the metal frame where the screen was made into it, and the glass frame was made into it. You would wind them out. Both of them would open out you wind the handle and both of them would open out, which was a blessing. We ran out of money because Vernon and I couldn't have got through that screen, through that metal, and neither could we have torn it out. Betty could have got through it. So we had these push-up windows on the back. He had bought secondhand, had never been painted. He got them out of an old house somewhere or another. They were old. You push up the window and put a stick up on it and hold it up. We were going to replace them when he finished picking cotton in January. We never did get through picking cotton until over in January, when the last of it opened up. He tried to pick twice. You pick when you think about half of it is open, then you wait till all of it open the next time, and you get it all the second picking. We were going to sell cotton and replace the windows, but before then, they hit us that night. When I waked up, gunshots was fired in the house. The eve of the house was burning. And it was just everything. Just looked like we were going to get burned up in the house alive. The fire hadn't got to the room where Dennis and Hal was sleeping. It was up in the front part of the house where Betty and Betty's bedroom and our bedroom were. And I raised her when I got Betty up. We didn't have time to get coats or shoes or nothing. We all went out barefooted. We went out with what we were sleeping in. I raised the window to put Betty out, and she had left. And went where her daddy was. I didn't know where she was, because we didn't turn on no lights, because they would have known where we were. And the window fell down, and I couldn't get it open no more. And I hit the sash so hard by then, I knocked the sash on out. I fell out with the sash. By then, he was heading Betty out the window to me. She got burned on her hands. Some of them chemicals got her in up here, and he was burned. He came out the same window. But he didn't have time to bring no guns or nothing out. But then Dennis had waked up, and he's coming around hollering for us to get out. He thought the fire had rolled out of the fireplace. We had big fireplaces like this one here. We had a chimney where 3 fireplaces were up one stack. It was a big fireplace in the den, one in each bedroom, small fireplaces.
Is that how you heated the house?
No, we had gas.
Yeah.
That's what made it burn so fast. It was the gas.
Okay.
The stoves, the hot water heater and things run on gas.
What did you think when you heard the shot? I mean, did you have time?
Oh, no, I hollered to Vernon, get up. They got us this time. We jumped up before, and we thought they was coming in on us. And it was just so, well, God was in the plan. That's who brought us out of that house.
It's hard to imagine what it'd be like to live through that. And so, how did you all get to the hospital?
Hal came out and got to pick up the truck, and he went out there and got his aunt. She came. We went down the house to the barn. The barn's still standing that he built down there to get out in the light, because we were scared they were going to come back and shoot us. By the time we got out, his auntie had already got out. She's already over there at the back of the woods before we got out.
So she ran back out of the store to the woods.
Uh-huh.
And after you came out the back windows, you all
We went to the barn, and she came on the barn to get out of the light. And his sister came out there and carried Betty, me, and him to the hospital, and his aunt got in the car to get out of the cold. We left Hal and Dennis here, and the neighbors brought them some clothes to put on.
When you all were attacked, you said you and Betty were at the back window, and Mr. Dahmer was up at the front.
He was shooting out. Betty said he was shooting out the kitchen door through the window there. I didn't ever know where he was shooting from.
Did he hit anybody?
I don't know. We had a planter where I had flowers in and dirt was in it. I think they were squatting down behind it where you couldn't hit them.
And is that what made him drive off?
Well, I think him firing his shots back so fast is what made him drive off.
And did you realize how badly injured he was?
Yes. And I thought Betty was injured real bad too. He did too. We thought we was losing her in the hospital, because he raised up to see about her. So she began to get sick off of that, whatever them fumes was. And, they're bringing that little pan up, chucking it, went all over it on the floor and everything. That's what he raised up. He was scared something had happened to her.
Yeah.
But she wasn't as bad off as he was.
How did you cope with all of that?
I was crying. He was trying to stop me from crying. Because I walked around in the hospital barefooted with nothing but a gown on. One of the black nurses that brought me a blanket in a wheelchair, and I was able to get my feet up off the floor of the wheelchair. A friend of ours brought me some clothes to put on when she found out what had happened.
Did you have any trouble at the hospital?
No,
Was the hospital a black hospital?
no, it's Forrest County.
It was Forrest County?
But they was letting black doctors in it there.
Okay.
So Dr. Jones was his doctor.
So you were able to have a black doctor.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of treatment were they able to provide for people from a fire?
Well, Dr. Jones said he done all he could do. He knew would go back in. And some of the people said we should take him to Jackson. I talked with Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones told me I'll do what you want to do. But I decided to leave him here. And after he passed, he said he never would have made it that much. I'd have had a spirit moving him. So he was telling me you done the right thing to leave him here.
Were you able to talk to him?
Yeah, I sat between his bed and Betty's bed. I was sitting between the beds and Betty would sleep. And then I turned on, his face was turned away from her. Then after she went to sleep, I went around on the side where his face was turned. And I laid my head down there on the bed and I went to sleep. And the next thing, he raised up and hollered my name and he was gone there. We were ringing. They didn't put that big tin of oxygen on him. They just put the bottle on him. They brought the big tin after he was dead. Betty run down. We was waiting for the nurses to come. And Betty jumped out of the bed and went down to the nurse's station to get him.
And she was injured because she was looking for her father?
No, she knew something was happening to her daddy.
Yeah.
And she went out there to tell the nurses they wouldn't come.
I meant back in the house. When she was in the house, you said you were both at the window and then she went back looking for her father?
He went to where he was. And when I raised the window up to put her out, and then when it fell down. And Betty was praying all the time. She was hollering, Lord have mercy, we're going to get burned up in this house alive. We was trying to keep her quiet so they wouldn't know where to shoot.
And she was, at that time, she was
just hysterical. We was trying to get her quiet.
Was she 10 years old?
10 and a half.
10 and a half years old. And so when she ran down to get the nurses?
They finally came, and then they brought the big tent of oxygen, which they should have had on them to start with.
Do you know why they didn't?
I don't know.
Yeah. Was he able to say anything to you at the hospital?
Well, yeah, he talked to me all the time. He was telling me to stop crying, everything was going to be all right. Yeah. But how could it be all right when you lost everything you had? I thought he was getting better now. I really thought he was going to live. But I guess you see what you want to see.
He had inhaled too much smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Was he burned or was it?
Yeah, his lungs were burned. That fuel, whatever they threw his ear. Yeah, that fire was just coming like this. The fire was there about up to the ceiling. I believe they threw more gas in there. Somebody said they probably had thrown some of this fuel in here they use for these planes to make them lift up real quick. Mm-hmm. They could have gotten it because they were white people was blowing it on the airport. They could have gotten it and say they wanted to get.
What did people in the community do after?
They came to our aid, but they were scared too. If this could happen to us, it could happen to them.
I know you knew that there was a threat, that there was danger, that you were worried about. Did you ever imagine them burning the house up? No, we thought they would shoot him in the car coming in the house. We never thought they'd do the house. So you thought as long as you could keep the car safe and get some driver in there with him, that if he got shot, they could get him to the hospital. Or if they shoot at the house, they're not going to be right there. No, we would. If they shoot at the house more likely, we would be back in the back. It would have got us. So but you can't plan for nothing. Yeah. I heard that, I know he was a longtime member of the NAACP, and then he also, was the first person to welcome SNCC into the community in his home, your home. You were taking care of him. I heard that he was having trouble with the NAACP over COFO. Well, do we need to discuss that? You don't want to speak about that? No. Okay. What was it like to try to go on after that? Oh, I had a hard time.
Things were really bad for me. I still had the distance to go with no car to go. We got a car, but we were able to get one to substantial car to go that distance every day. It was a good while before I was able to get a new car.
How did your children cope with that?
They did the best they could for years. They were sad.
Yeah.
All of us were sad. We just didn't have very much to smile about.
And how many of your sons were in the military at that time?
I believe it was 4 in there. 5, let's see. Vernon, Monez, George, and Albert.
So they were all in serving the U.S. government? And
Harold had just come out.
and they came back for the funeral?
Yes. We had to get addresses from other people to find them because all my addresses were burned up.
What kind of help did you get to rebuild the house?
The NAACP offered to build a house back. The Chamber of Commerce in Hattiesburg offered to build a house back. Dr. Nooncastle was heading up the Chamber of Commerce at that time. I chose the Chamber of Commerce to build a house back. We'd had enough dying, and I was afraid some more people would get killed.
And so, Dr. Newcastle, is that what you said?
Nooncastle.
Nooncastle.
Oh, he was president of Cary College at that time.
Oh, okay.
He was heading up the Chamber of Commerce in Hattiesburg.
Did you know him before that?
No.
And you said you chose the chamber because you didn't want anybody else to get.
I didn't want any more friction or nobody else to die.
So this was a way for the white community to sort of apologize?
And help.
And did that change?
Well, yes and no. Because I often made a blank statement about it. All of them was bad. If the few was good, they wouldn't open their mouth and say nothing, so they was a part of it too. But all of them wasn't bad.
We talked a little bit earlier about there's been a number of different trials over the years. So what role did your family play in trying to get a conviction for the people that attacked your home?
I was the first person to testify in all those trials and before the grand jury. I don't know how many times. We counted up about 75 times I took the stand testifying. I was the lead-off witness to testify in all of them.
How did you feel about the local law enforcement and their efforts to find the people who had done this?
I didn't feel good because I didn't think they tried.
Yeah.
It was the FBI who came in and found them. It was 15 of them. They rounded up.
Where some of the Klansmen involved in the attack were indicted and tried and convicted and sentenced.
Yeah, it was 4 of them. Mr. Duke and Mr. Finch did all they could do to get them indicted.
And who were they? Mr. Finch?
Mr. Finch was the
District attorney?
district attorney. Mr. Duke was the county attorney. They assisted.
And these are local white men?
Yes, they're local white men in Hattiesburg. Mr. Dukes is still living.
Is he?
Jimmy Dukes is still living.
And according to these dates, they started serving in like 68 and 69. And I'm not sure if this is right, but it seems like that must have been one of the first convictions by the state of Mississippi for people for attacks in the civil rights movement. Do you know if that's true?
I don't know if it's true, but I understand. I've heard that they was the first people sent to prison for killing a white black man. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true now. I don't have no.
I know that there were convictions of some of the people involved in murdering the 3 civil rights workers in Neshoba, but that was in federal court.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
And so.
We didn't get anything. Well, we went to federal court with them, but I think they was. Well, some of them served some time in federal court, but it wasn't very much.
And what happened after they were convicted? How many years did they get for murdering your husband and attacking your home?
Not that many, and they didn't. They got pardoned by the governor.
How did you feel about that?
We felt bad about it, but we knew The governor and all of them was a part of it. Mississippi was just as responsible as those Klan was for what happened to us and what happened to other black people. If they didn't know about it, they didn't care about it. And they didn't do anything about it.
You know, there are a lot of people that think that things have really changed in the last 50 years. What's your perspective?
Oh,
on
they
that?
have.
Yeah.
Oh, they have. A lot of things have changed.
What do you think is most important about what's changed?
People are able to get better jobs. People are able to go to these white colleges and get a better education and stay at home closer. When I was going to school, you didn't have two places you could go in Mississippi. That was Jackson State and Alcorn. And now they can go to these junior colleges. They had junior colleges then, but we couldn't go to them. Children can stay at home and go to the junior college. And stay at home and go to USL and Cary.
One of the things we haven't talked about, I remember, you know, I've talked to Dory Ladner and Joyce Ladner, and, you know, they were both very angry about having to leave home to go to school with two colleges right here.
And then they put them out in Jackson State, too.
That's right. After a year.
They put them out of Jackson State. Up there, they had to go to Tougaloo.
Do you remember that when that happened? Were you aware of it then?
Yeah, we were aware of it. That they had put
How did people in the community feel about it?
You have to remember, most people in the community was not active in civil rights. And the few that was active, they couldn't do anything about it. The black people was afraid. And they had a right to be afraid. Look what happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
He was self-employed. They couldn't fire him.
What kind of things did they do to harass him besides the attacks and the
You lose your jobs.
Did he have any kind of even though before they murdered him, even though he was independent, were there ways that they could affect
Oh,
his-
yeah, they froze us out at 2 banks. He had land with no mortgage on it that he used as collateral to borrow money for the farm. The bank wouldn't loan him any money. They loaned him $300. But anybody that needed somebody to co-sign with them, the black people that needed somebody to co-sign, they sent him to Vernon. He said, no, I can't sign it. They won't loan me no money. He said, they told us to come to you and get you to sign it.
What were they trying to do with that?
They was trying to get him in debt. Because once you go sign for a person to co-sign for a person to get money at the bank, you said if they don't pay, I will.
Mm-hmm. So they're trying to set him up to lose the land.
Yes, you lose property.
Would he sign bonds for people in jail?
I don't know if him signing any bonds in jail, put up no properties for any bonds in jail.
So was it hard to make the money to pay the taxes on all of the land? Was that one of the?
No, we
was okay.
We had a comfortable living with cotton.
Mm-hmm.
The cotton was Eastland and Stedis on plantations in the Delta.
You were saying about senators.
Senator Eastland and Stedis was in Washington, D.C. They had the plan set up where the farmers were paid to grow cotton. They had a good plan set up. It was for them. It wasn't for Vernon Dahmer, but he got in on it because it was federal. You could grow the cotton. He could take it. They had warehouses here in Hattiesburg where you stored your cotton. They charged you a fee for storing it. You could go and get the value of whatever the market price was of cotton when you were selling it that day. But if it went up higher over in December or January or February, you could get they would have to pay you what the difference between what you got and what it went up for.
So you were able to wait till the market was
Better. Now that wasn't set up for us. It was set up for Stedis and Eastland up there in the Delta. They were the ones growing the cotton, and the other white peoples up there growing cotton.
But you all were able to take advantage.
We was able to take advantage of it.
How
One year they paid us not to plant any cotton. They had too much cotton. Whatever they paid you according to whatever your acres produce.
How big was the farm? How many acres?
He was growing as much as 70 acres of cotton at that time.
Yeah, and how much was the overall property?
I don't know how many acres they had, but he had that much in cotton.
70 acres in
cotton.
How many people would he have to hire to work on that?
Well, you had to have a lot of them when he was picking it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
But now when he got the cotton picker, you could pick a bale and get cotton there for 45 minutes.
Wow.
So you didn't need that many hands.
Yeah.
And that's when threats really come in, when that new cotton picker was brought in here too.
So was that because it showed that he was doing well? So he got threats with the farm and with the voting.
Yes.
Okay. Did you know Mr. Kennard?
Yes.
Was he a friend or?
Yes, he was a friend. We knew when he was going to go to Southern. We tried to get him to wait and not to go.
You did.
We did. We was at Mary Magdalene Church when he told us down at the church in the lower community that he went to. And Betty must have been about 3 or 4, might have been 4. She was playing on the ground and we was talking. He said he wasn't going for himself. He was going to open up a school for her so she wouldn't have to go nowhere else to go to school. Betty graduated from USM.
She did.
Mm-hmm. Dennis had to go to Jackson State because he was trying to correct the professors. They were saying Negro instead of Negro.
At Jackson State?
They were saying that in Southern.
Oh, at Southern.
At Southern.
Oh, so he started there and then he went on.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And I kept telling him, you're going to correct up on an F. You need to let it alone and try to get through that.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
He corrected up on an F. And when he he had made more than that, and he said he had to go there, wouldn't go nowhere. So we got him in Jackson State, which was a tremendous burden on him. We needed him here to help feed cows, but all that fell on Betty and I. He would come in on the weekend and load the truck up for us, and we feed the cows and eat it because he was up in Jackson.
So, so when they went to school at home, they could continue.
They could help here on the farm because we needed the farm animals because the farm animals is what paid the tuition.
Mm-hmm.
My children didn't get no loan.
Mm-hmm.
Betty got a loan, $500 for the back. Dennis got $500 for the back. We worked for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Southern had a plan then. You could pay part of your tuition. And then by the time you take that semester test, you had to pay the other in order to get your grade. So by the time we would be able to save enough up to pay the other part. Mm-hmm. Southern also used to furnish books free. You get the books just like this college, like the high school, like the children go to public school.
Mm-hmm. So did you have any hesitation about the children going to Southern?
No.
No.
Glad they could get in Southern.
Glad that things had changed.
So it would be a whole lot cheaper to get into Alcorn. In fact, Dennis could have gone to Alcorn on an athletic scholarship. But I knew he would have a better chance of getting a better education if I had been to Alcorn.
Mm-hmm. For people that don't know about Mr. Kennard, can you tell us what happened with him?
He came back home to help with his brother. She was ailing. His stepfather had died by then. He was in Chicago with his sister. And he built a chicken farm here so he would have a livelihood. And he filled out an application to register at USM. And some of our people knew about the application. They called certain people, and they were very waiting on him when he got there. He didn't smoke or drink, but they pretend he came on campus with whiskey in his car. And what was he going to get whiskey from since he didn't smoke or drink? And he was put in jail for that. Then, of course, with him being in jail, they had also had the man, the family that lived on his place. He furnished a place for them to live and for them to work in the chicken house there. One of the sons worked at Forrest County Co-op. Clyde bought feed from Forrest County Co-op. They had this man that said Clyde showed him how to leave the dough jar and get feed from there. And Clyde was buying hot feed from him. They had him to say that. But he testified lately that that wasn't the truth. They told him they could have that busted feed on the floor and do what they wanted with it. Of course, they helped him out by busting some more. He didn't only sell feed to Clyde Killer. He sold it to white farmers too. But they didn't do nothing about the white one.
What happened with Mr. Kennard?
He went to prison. And before he was going to prison, they had already made arrangement that they was gonna sell his farm, all his equipment on the courthouse step. Vernon and some other people's got a hold of that information. They got the 2 black insurance company out of Jackson to come and pay off the farm. And it wasn't able to be sold on the Forrest County courthouse step because they had paid it off.
So they were able to save the farm.
They paid off the indebtedness, I guess. And his sister was able to redeem it later.
Okay. What happened to him in prison?
He died in prison. Well, he didn't die in prison. He came down with cancer. They kept him there till he couldn't walk. He was crawling before they let him out. And they finally let him out. My understanding was his sister, and I can't think of the comedian in Chicago. What
Dick
is
Gregory?
Dick Gregory? They got in contact with millionaires up there. And the millionaires there contacted one in Mississippi. They contacted the governor to let him go. They let him come home to die. He went to Chicago where his sister was. And he died up there, I believe.
I know there's been a campaign recently about getting the state to acknowledge the wrongdoing in that case.
Well, they did down here in the courthouse. I was down there when they acknowledged it was wrong. Clarinet and Mitchell was the one that got them to do it. Mitchell, and John. This is what old age do for the man, the black man. John Hohen,
Yeah, Senator.
Hohen. This is what old age do to you people.
I hope I'm as sharp as you are, ma'am. I know that, it's been very recent that they acknowledged that Mr. Kennard was set up
Yes.
and that they also didn't get him the medical care that he needed. I know Dory Ladner and Joyce Ladner were involved in that. Can you describe what they were like as children?
They were young together. Clyde had a very good education out of Chicago, and they was energetic, and they got along good and worked good with NAACP for the youth.
Did you know Miss Gray?
Yes.
Can you tell us what she was like?
She was very energetic too. She was a go-getter too. She wasn't afraid of nothing.
How far from here did she live?
She lived in what we call Palmer Crossing, where the black school was located. That's about 12 miles or more. A good 12 miles.
So how often would you see somebody like that?
Probably maybe every 2-3 months or something like that. Everybody was going their own way. And of course, I stayed here at the house trying to protect it with the 2 young children.
So that was one of your jobs. In addition to cooking for
in addition to cooking for everybody, you didn't dare leave them alone. Because Betty and Dennis was able to ride their bicycles in the community until we began to get so many threats. And we told them you could not go out in the yard. We got a big yard you see here and there. They could ride all around here, but if you can't ride around here, you just had to put the bike up. We didn't tell them we was getting threats. But it wasn't safe. We scared they'd kill them when we rode.
And I know that you and your family worked hard over the years so there was the men that were in the cars that conducted the attack, but who's the person that
Sam Bowers, the Imperial Wizard, was the one who gave the orders.
And you were able to get
him convicted in 98.
What did it take to get him convicted? How were you able to make that happen?
I think it was the young district attorney and the young state attorney. These are young white people now. They're not the old people no more. I think they had a different view. I think they saw things as they were and what they ought to be. They didn't have the same view maybe as their grandfather had, or maybe their dad had. They were seeing things different.
Yeah. What about the jury? What was the jury? Was it a mixed jury?
Yes. But we've had some of those people that were convicted back there was convicted from all white jury.
Yeah.
I don't know I can't remember which one it was.
We want those first ones. That we
Them
were
first
talking
four,
about.
some of them had all white
Were
jury.
they surprised, do you think, that they were convicted by white men?
Yes, yes,
They thought they
yes,
were going to be protected?
yes.
Do you know, did people just feel like that was going too far?
Well, but you know, they made a statement that a white man would never be convicted for killing a
Mm-hmm.
in man.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it would happen either.
Yeah. Did it give you any relief when they were convicted?
Oh, yes, and I cried every time we had a mistrial.
Yeah. You know, you're sitting here telling us about this, and it's very painful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about, you said, I can't remember the number you said, but it was a huge number of how many trials.
Oh, yeah. I had to go before every grand jury that was going to bring this trial, go to bring an indictment. We went all over we didn't go all over Mississippi. We went to Biloxi one time, we went to Jackson, went to Meridian to testify before the grand jury. They brought me, one of the scary experience I had was coming from Bristol. They needed me to testify. And they brought me over here in a highway patrol car with two white, and they never said a word to me all the way from Richmond over here.
Wow.
When we got to the courthouse, they said, "You here now?"
That must have been
It was scary.
intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Cause it looked like they could have sent a black person over there with a car to get me.
And
They had a patrolman in that area, and had them to come there and get me.
they and each of the trials was separate, right? Like none of these were tried
No.
at the same time.
No.
So each person that was ever tried, so you had to. How did you manage to just do that over and over?
Oh, I wanted something done with them.
Yeah, whatever it took.
I wanted something done with them.
Yeah.
And the scary part about it was, there wasn't that many black people who would come to the trial. Betty was subpoenaed, but she got so frightened she couldn't testify. Cause she went to pieces, and Mr. Finch said he wasn't gonna do that to this child. No, she can't go on that stand. So Betty was there. Hal was subpoenaed, and I was subpoenaed. And if Hal wasn't ready in the courtroom with Betty, I didn't have nobody to leave Betty with. I was scared for her to be out, even though she was in the witness room. I was scared for her to be out there.
And you couldn't get anybody to come and help out?
Black people just didn't come. They was afraid. I guess they was afraid, but when Billy Roy Pitt came to testify, they filled the courthouse up.
What was the difference?
I don't know why they want to hear what that white man tell what he done to us and not hear what I had to say. I don't understand it.
They didn't understand that you needed the support.
I don't think they did.
Maybe they just saw you as being so strong.
They felt so sorry for me. They didn't want to see me suffering up there. That's what his sister said. She just couldn't stand to see me suffering on the witness stand.
Yeah.
But a friendly face is something what you need in court.
Mm-hmm. So, reflecting on this, what do you want people to know about the movement, about Mr. Dahmer?
That a good man's life was taken from him, but he did it so that other families could have a better living. We had a comfortable living, but he wanted other families to be able to do better.
Do you feel like he would be happy with where things are?
No, he was wondering why we hadn't progressed farther.
Yeah. Are there other things about your family growing up, or your work in the movement, your support for him, that I haven't asked you about?
We have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful family of children here.
Tell us about your children.
Oh, they are wonderful. I'm not the mother, but two of them, but all of them are mine.
Mm-hmm.
When I married him, I married the whole bunch.
Yeah. So the older boys.
I'm not mine.
How many boys did he have when you married him?
He had 6.
So,
That's them up here.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you married a whole family?
Whole family children.
Yeah.
That's all of them up there. That's 2, 4, 6 right there. That's Carrie, the one on the end. That's the one with on the ball with Dennis. But he did everything down here except sleep down here, ate down here.
So you might as well.
He was here when we ate breakfast. He was here when we ate supper. He just had to get home before dark.
One on the end.
One right down here by Betty.
Oh, okay.
That's Betty in the blue. That's Carrie right there.
Next to her. Yeah. That's a great painting.
George had that done in Germany, I believe.
Yeah.
They fixed us up like that. And it's on the other side too.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Oh, I don't know. You had to go to count them up. I don't know.
Enough to keep you busy.
And we got great grands too. Not only grands, but we got great grands.
I imagine that your family reunions are quite the occasion.
We enjoy each other.
Thank you so much, Miss Dahmer.
Okay.
I know that.
Is it anything else I need to answer?
Well, can you think of anything?
No.
Well,
Did we get everything from the beginning when it wasn't recorded?
Would you like to talk about your family growing up again?
Yeah, we can do
If you
that.
have time.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we good?
You had to ask me the question. I don't
will.
remember.
I will.
Yeah,
We're running.
We're running.
Can you tell me about your parents and where you were born? And
I was
growing up?
born in Rose Hill, Mississippi. My mother and father we had a large family. I believe it was 6 boys and 3 girls.
And tell me what your family did for a living.
We farmed.
And you owned your own land?
We owned our own land. At one time, we had 2 tenants, 2 tenant farms on, 2 tenant families living on the land.
So that's a pretty big, successful farm.
Well, it's a way of bringing in, helping somebody else make a living and bringing in some more money for the family.
What were your schools like?
They was poor.
Did you like school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I liked school. But I'm sure they did the best they could with what they had to do with. We just found out they was not up to date when we went to college. Children coming out of law school system, Hattiesburg school system, they were far more advanced than we were. I never heard of chemistry. I got over to Alcorn.
Yeah.
And you know we should have had a chemistry book.
At least know what it is.
Yes.
You mentioned before that one of the schools that you went to was a Rosenwald school?
Yes, the high school I finished from was Roosevelt School.
Can you-
When I first started school, we had school in the churches, in the black churches. We didn't have a building.
When you were little?
Yes.
And
Most of us, I imagine I was about in the 6th or 7th grade, but we had a building. We went to school in the churches.
And was that, you had said before that your father donated land?
My father donated the land that the school was built on.
The Rosenwald one where you went to high school?
Yes. It was a grammar school one. It was they wasn't K-10, it was 1st grade through 12.
And what was the community contribution to that school?
They needed lumber to build the building. I was built out of lumber most. The community peoples gave logs to cut the lumber out. They brought in log trucks to haul the log. Now, I don't know who paid for the log trucks or how they got paid, but I do know they came in and went in those woods, and they would tell them what length to cut the logs in.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that once your father gave that land, and then what happened to it?
He gave them the land, was on that, and so the road had washed out and some trees was there. He had the trees cut out, and they made him pay for them trees. They wrote him a letter and threatened to put him in jail. That was the school property. He didn't know to put that clause back in. That land should have reverted back to the family.
And so was it the county?
It was county.
What did the county do with the land after the school closed?
Sold it.
So they sold you the land that your father had donated?
He sold it to somebody else.
Is your family land still in the family?
Yes.
Yeah. Your brothers and sisters or their children?
Well, I'm the one paying taxes on it.
You keep him?
I pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
And I've asked my children if we don't get it divided up, to don't let it go for taxes. I'm the person paying the taxes on it.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I know a lot of people lose land because it gets so divided up.
And fighting each other some.
What do you think is important about your childhood?
My family knew education was important. They knew we would have a better life if we could get to college. At one time, it was 5 of us in college, because 3 of them had been to the service, and 2 of us, and they were. I worked all the way through college. I worked I worked all called on the work scholarship. I didn't have no scholarship. I wanted work aid.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned before that you were in college during World War II.
Yes.
And I don't think I asked you this at the beginning of the interview, but some people might want to get the time frame. Can you tell us when you were born?
1925.
1925, and you left home during World War II to go
Yes.
to college.
But finished high school was 43, I believe. I think I got that date right. I think I could remember the time I finished high school and college. I finished college in 47.
Yeah.
I can remember that.
When you were growing up, did you want to go to college? Did you think
Yes.
about that? That was part of
We
your
knew.
family?
I had an aunt that taught school, and she had a better living than we had. She only had 2 children. They farmed, but her living was better than our living was, right there in the same community. Some money coming in is better than no money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit, but it's better than none coming in.
So you looked at what she was doing?
Mm-hmm. She had something coming in. So all the time we had money coming in is when we sold cotton, sold cows, or sold some kind of animals. That's the only time we had money coming in.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of anything else that you want to share?
No. Okay.
What's the significance of the colors you're wearing?
Huh? Oh, the clothes I'm wearing. I belong to Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, and this is our color.
Did you join out at Alcorn?
I didn't have no. Tennessee State Post, where I would have joined. I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
I joined after I joined after I finished college and was able to get some money. It takes money to join those things. And by the way, my daughter's a Delta. She's not a Sigma Gamma Rho.
And you still let her in the house?
I like the Deltas.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Dahmer.
You will.
I hope we didn't wear you out too much.
No.